You are now watching On Point, a news and public affairs show from California State University Northridge.
Hello and welcome to On Point. I'm your host, Kayla Chavez. April is National Gardening Month, and today we'll get into how gardening can do so much more than just make things look pretty. It promotes environmental sustainability, mental and physical well-being, and even community connection. Here with us today are two incredible guests who are passionate about making our communities greener and healthier. They will plant the seeds we need to be more informed on how to go green. First up, we have Rose Liston, who is the Community Forestry Coordinator for Tree People, one of the largest environmental organizations in Southern California to empower communities to provide a greener future. Next to Rose, we have Natalie Gudiño, the youth organizer at Pacoima Beautiful, a local organization based right here in the San Fernando Valley. They focus on environmental justice, planting trees, organizing cleanup efforts, and education. Rose and Natalie, thank you both for being here. So tell me, what exactly is your role in Tree People, and what exactly the organization is?
Yeah, so my role is just one of many at Tree People. I'm a community forestry coordinator, so I coordinate and run different community events like planting events and tree giveaways. I also attend community tabling events to get the message across or to get some volunteers to come out with us. All of our trees in San Fernando Valley have been planted by volunteer efforts, which is really amazing. So community is in my title for a reason, but Tree People does so much. We have events that are in the mountains, restoring burned areas. We have an education department that goes into schools and educates kindergartners to high schoolers all about the climate, about recycling, about all the things. And we have policy and research. We have marketing communications. Tree People is just a large organization, just like you said in your intro, that is really amazing because you get to do and experience all different kinds of things.
That's amazing. And how long have you been working for the organization?
I've been a Tree People for about 3.5 years.
Okay, wow. And I guess now we're going to jump on to Natalie. So what exactly is Pacoima Beautiful, and what is your role in the organization?
Pacoima Beautiful is a nonprofit that focuses on environmental justice, as you mentioned. We do have a lot of different departments. We have our policy team. We have our planning team, which focuses on projects like cold pavement, solar energy, and stuff like that. I'm personally part of the youth organizing team. We focus on education towards the high schools in the San Fernando Valley. I'm also known as the agricultural lead, so I do focus on how to teach these kids to learn how to maintain gardens in their schools, how to use the products that come out of their gardens, so eating healthier, making those decisions, even learning creative ways to use their harvests, and just truly creating a practice of sustainability.
So it's an organization that works particularly with the youth, or is there?
We have programs all across. We also have our community organizing team who works with the older community, so the adults of the San Fernando Valley. They host stuff like our mercado, where we have community members collect produce from houses around the valley, and we actually host kind of like a trading event to provide free produce. They also have, they're regarded to or referred to as the community investigators, and they're a team that actively looks at things to improve in our communities when it comes to environmental issues. So we do have youth and adult programs as well.
Okay, and then I guess this is a question for both of you guys. Feel free to jump in. But how would you explain the importance of gardening and its impact on the environment?
Like I mentioned, my focus is with youth, and I've had a lot of experience working with elementary and middle school and high school students. And for me, it really is important to create that curiosity of where our food comes from and really be concerned of the safety of the products that we are consuming. We recently had this week a lesson on processed foods. So looking at an ingredient from the farm to the factory and how it gets to our table, we looked at a variety of apple products, so a raw apple as far as an apple flavored candy, and really just looking for the evidence of that raw product in our food and just keeping that in their mind. I have found that helps them make those decisions a little bit easier when it comes to shopping for themselves and their families. It's also, for me, a preservation of culture. You really get to learn like how our cultures or how different cultures use ingredients differently when on a basis could all be the handful of the same amount of ingredients, but it tastes very, very differently. So for me, it's really about just the origins and kind of continuing our culture and our history when it comes to working in a garden.
Yeah, and Rose, did you have anything to add on to that?
Well, I can't top it, but yes, I will add on to it. I feel as though gardening and community can go hand in hand. Just as Natalie said, they're working together to learn about their plants and their gardens. Yeah, I think that gardening and the earth and getting your hands in the dirt really brings community together. I think that would be what I had to say about it.
And I think, well, we've touched on, your role in the organizations, and then what you think about how gardening can help the community and the environment. But I want to know what exactly got both of you guys into this field. What sparked that passion? If you wanted to start, Rose.
Yeah, my passion was sparked when I learned more about the climate crisis. I wanted to get my hands dirty as soon as I could to help in any way that I could. My first position at Tree People was an internship, actually, helping with those burn scar restoration areas, so gardening in the wild. And that really just kept leading me more and more down the rabbit hole of gardening and climate.
Wow, that's very interesting. And Natalie, what sparked your passion?
I give a lot of credit to my parents. My father is a gardener, and I tell everyone in our organization, and my dad actually told me, make sure you mention this, but since I was a little girl, if there was ever a day that I didn't have school, he would take me to work with him. And so I really got to experience what different gardens can look like in different communities and what they can provide to those households. And considering my own household as well, growing up, we had a variety of trees and a variety of plants that we were kind of known for certain produce, and other aunts and uncles were known for their produce. So it would just become this reoccurring event of, on the weekend, we'll come pick your fruit and I'll come pick your fruit. And it ended up extending to turning these ingredients into meals and just having these shared experiences with gardening. So I truly just tried to figure out a way of how can I share this with other people? We have so many things available to us and so many reasons to come together and just have these types of conversations. And what better way to do that through food, in my opinion. So gardening really is that outlet for me.
Yes, of course, and good job for remembering that little note that your dad told you. I think that, when you're passionate about something, of course, it starts early on. And I kind of want to jump back to what Rose said earlier, getting your hands dirty. I think gardening can be such a therapeutic way. So how is it that gardening can be such a grounding experience for people, literally, once you're getting your hands dirty?
I think that we have a lot going on in our mind all the time. We have a lot going on around us in the world, and getting your hands dirty, grounding into that ground, is giving you a physical activity to do that you are thinking about. And it's literally just grounding yourself in the ground to me.
I agree. It's a very sensory experience. Literally holding dirt in your hands can be such a relaxing and different environment for someone who, especially us who may be on a computer many times a day or behind the wheel during our commutes to work and stuff like that. It really opens up a door of even the sounds that you hear in the garden. When you're working in it, you hear the birds, you smell the fresh air. It's a very sensory experience, in my opinion, which is very relaxing.
And I'm curious, do you both have any tips that you would give to anyone that wants to begin their own garden at home? How would they start?
I would say not to overthink it. I was talking to Rose a little bit about this before. I don't have the educational background to practice and to say that I know how to garden, but I have the years of hands-on experience and just the sharing experience that it doesn't have to be complicated. There's the basics that we know that we as people need, that plants also need, which is the air, the sunlight, the water, and it's just finding that balance, catering to what that plant needs to give you the most. So I would say not to overthink it, don't overcomplicate it. just try to figure out what works for you and how to grow what you intend on using, because we don't have to grow everything, but cater to your needs.
And I wanted to jump back onto you, Rose. So I know that Tree People does focus a lot on planting trees, reforestation. Can you explain a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so a lot of what my day-to-day like is, well, unfortunately, I'm not behind a computer, but unfortunate or fortunate, you know, whatever way you're looking at it. A lot of my day is assessing streets that need trees and getting those measurements to see if a tree will fit, making sure that the utilities are clear and that everything will be safe once we plant a tree. We do a lot of planting in parkways, which is the strip between the private property and the public property or the street. And those are really cool because then it can benefit that property owner, but it can also benefit the community at large. So that's part of the day-to-day for us in the community forestry. We also have, like I said, the volunteer events. Like, we wouldn't be able to put all the trees in the ground without the volunteers. Bring it back to getting our hands in the dirt and getting us grounded. Countless volunteers are like, wow, this was amazing. This was a great experience. I never thought to do this before. And we hope very much that they then go home and want to plant a tree or want to plant a garden. The reforestation looks like getting contracts from the Angeles Forest and growing the little baby plants, all native to our region specifically, growing them up and then plopping them in the ground again with volunteers, and going back and watering them, watering our street trees. Yeah, lots of maintenance, lots of care.
Lots of teamwork as well, it sounds like.
Teamwork.
Yeah, and Natalie, I want to jump on to you. So I know Pacoima Beautiful does a lot of community engaging activities and things like that. How would you say gardening is able to promote community strength and bonding?
I would say, since we do cater to very different ranges of age and culture, I do think we are able to make those community connections. Directly through my work, it is through the youth programs that we have. So as I mentioned, my responsibility would end up being going to these school gardens and having them connect and having them learn how to maintain it. We have our adult programs who actually transformed a former landfill site that people would just dump their trash at, and we actually turned it over and turned it into community garden. And we have these boxes where they are growing edible produce that they can again provide to these programs, that we have the produce exchanges, the mercado, and stuff like that.
It sounds like both of your organizations are doing amazing, not only to strengthen the environment, but uplifting the community, it seems as though. So we're going to take a short break, but when we return, we'll get into what you need to look out for when starting your own garden. So stay tuned.
Every day, thousands of kids start vaping. So if you want to talk to your kids, you got to get it trending. I was just trying to get your attention.
Could I just ask you?
Visit talkaboutvaping.org for tips on when and how to have the vape talk.
Welcome back to On Point. Once again, I'm your host, Kayla Chavez. And if you've ever thought about growing your own plants, now is a great time to start. Gardening offers so many benefits, from lowering your carbon footprint to improving both your physical and mental health. And the good news is, it's easier than you might think. Whether you're looking for something low maintenance or ready to dive into a bigger project, there's a plant for everyone. So I guess jumping off from that, what is your favorite plant, Rose?
My favorite plant? Okay, well, for a garden, I really like monkey flower, which is a native shrub to our local Southern California. It's super cute, produces amazing orange or yellow flowers, and it's kind of sticky, so it's kind of a sensory experience as well. It's also like the perfect size for any garden, including like pots, which I really love. Yeah.
And Natalie, what about yours?
I'd kind of bounce off of your ending right now. I was really heading towards herbs. Herbs are a really great starting plant. They're fairly easy to manageable, and there's just so much that you can do with it. I would add that it is also sensory because of the smell. Like, it really can be calming. You can use it for many different products, and it's very easy to maintain. Yeah.
And why exactly is it your favorite flower, or what made you like that monkey flower?
Well, it's really hard because I like most plants, bar the ones that can become a little bit invasive. They're a little bit harder to love, but I still love them where they are supposed to be, okay? I don't dislike any plants. But the monkey flower always caught my eye because of the accessibility and literally the inclusivity of the size of it and the ease of it. It was always something that I would want to take to community events to be able to give out because I knew that anywhere, anyone would be able to look after it. Yeah, and it's also really pretty.
Mm-hmm. And Natalie, what about you with the herbs? I know you've been speaking a lot about food, fruits, vegetables, things like that.
I would say the versatility of it. It can be used just as much or just as equally whether it's fresh or dried, and almost has a greater purpose when it's dried. You can do so many things with it. So I think that really expands the opportunities for people to get creative with what they're growing, and there's just so much you can do.
And so what tips would you give anyone that wants to start a new garden? What is the first thing that you need to buy?
The first thing I would say that you don't need to buy is getting on those Facebook marketplaces or getting on those buy nothing groups. If you wanted to start a potted garden, I feel like that's somewhere to go for sure. And also they have like soil. And also our cities have soil and our cities have mulch and compost. So I guess the first thing I would say to buy is not to buy.
I would completely agree. Yeah, definitely checking out your local resources. Something that I'm personally working on currently at Pacoima Beautiful is a seed library, something that can be put out into the community for people to just take freely and explore what they can grow. Before buying, I would also just make sure to analyze what you can do with your property, with your living space. Not everyone has access to yards and dirt, but that doesn't mean you can't grow anything. Something out of a pot, something out of a empty 2-liter soda bottle. There's so many things you can do. So maybe just analyze what is available to you and what can help your environment thrive wherever you are.
So clearly, I guess the message is what not to buy. Is there a backstory behind avoiding the Facebook marketplace, or?
No, encouraging it.
Oh, okay,
encouraging the Facebook marketplace. I'm discouraging going to the large box stores if you don't need to just yet.
And what exactly, what mistake did you make, both of you, when you started? If you want to start, Rose.
Well, I did not look up the shade requirements for some of my plants. Again, speaking to the native California plants, I had a beautiful yarrow, and I put it in direct sunlight, and it did not like that. So I think that's definitely a mistake that I encourage people not to make, because there's so many resources online. You can really figure out, like Natalie's saying, what would work best in your space that you have by just doing a quick Google search.
Yeah.
Any mistakes that you made that our viewers can easily
The fact
avoid?
that you brought up Google search, COVID was a really free time. You had so much time to explore different things, and I started looking into hydroponics, which is growing plants without soil using water. And I kind of jumped the gun with Googling as many details as I could, and almost absorbed so much that I didn't know what to do with it anymore, that I started buying supplies, and I started buying like minerals and packages of like powdered chemicals that can be added to those, to where I just didn't know what to do with it anymore. So as I've mentioned a couple of times, just start as simple as possible, go with the basics. It's great to work up to it, and it's amazing what you can do when you learn all those things, but don't jump the gun.
And let's avoid falling into the hole of the Google search.
Absolutely.
All right, now it's time to get our hands dirty. Well, figuratively anyway. Rose and Natalie are going to guide us through a live demo on how to properly repot a plant. So let's get started. Okay, so first things first, we're going to put on our gloves.
For safety.
On the right hand. Yeah, so the gloves, like Natalie said, will help with the safety, will help with if you are in there and not loving any bugs or worms on you. Also might just keep you a little bit clean, but don't expect them to keep you totally clean. That is part of the fun of gardening, though.
Okay, so this is my first time ever potting any plant. So you guys take it away. What is the first thing I have to do right now?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say you have to do is make sure you have all of your supplies, for one. So I think that we have soil in that bag, right? We have our pot, we have our plant, water, a little trowel. I would get some soil into the pot, just a little bit.
Okay.
Because it looks like we have the perfect size pot for the plant. You can use your little trowel to do that if that's easier.
I have a little cup in here.
Even better.
So, like that or a little bit more?
A little bit at a time.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna start with just a bit. How is that looking? If you wanted to double check.
Looks good. I would get my hands in there a little bit and flatten it out a little.
Okay.
Down there. Beautiful. Now I would pick up my little plant.
Okay. And then how would we take it out of this?
Yeah. What I would do for this little guy, he's probably lived in that tiny little pot for a long time, so his roots are probably very compact in there. I would give him a little squeeze.
Okay. Natalie, are you seeing the action?
Yeah.
Don't get shy.
Don't get shy. No.
Well, you two are experts here. So we're gonna squeeze this, right? And then squeeze it up, or how exactly?
I would try to grab it by the very base of the stems right there. So right where you see that top layer of soil.
So from right here?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I would grab it from the bottom, or?
As close to the soil as you can, I would try to grab that.
Okay.
There you go.
Like since you have wiggled it and made some room, you can try to just
Take it out.
Pop it out.
I am not a gardener. Okay. Okay, and then now that we have that, how are we going to add it onto just pop it in there?
I would break up the soil a little bit with my hands over your pot. I would break up a little bit of that root ball, just because, as you can see, those roots did get very compact in there.
Okay, so something like this?
Yeah, just gently. And I would also make sure to do it at the bottom too.
Okay. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then just put it into the pot, or is it not looking good? Feel free.
I would put it in the pot and see how high it is in the pot.
Okay.
And then you might have to add some more soil at the bottom or not.
Okay.
What do you think, Natalie?
Yes.
I think we could add just a tiny bit. If not, we can start filling out those sides next to the plant.
Yeah.
Okay, so add a bit more soil.
Yeah.
This is stressing me out. Okay.
Give it a little sprinkle in there. There you go.
I want to know, this is quite an experience. So what's your first time gardening?
I don't even think I can remember my first time gardening.
What extent? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know I potted plants up with my mom before in her garden. My most recent first time gardening was actually at work, again in the forest, planting little acorns to then grow into a big old acorn tree. That was pretty cool.
Oh wow, acorn tree. That's
Yeah.
interesting. And I'm struggling with the flower. I can't imagine. And Natalie, what about?
Kind of how you said, it's kind of hard to pinpoint that first time. I'm sure it was any time between like trimming the trees with my dad or in our own house and cutting grass is there's so many things I can say, but I think one of the highlighted points that I've ever experienced with gardening was while I was at Cal Poly Pomona, where I studied, and I was able to work on an urban farm that was connected to an elementary school. So that was a 2-acre farm where I really just got to experience how much you can do with soil and water and these resources, and just really teaching those kids. And I don't know, that it's such an escape, and that's what stands out to me the most.
Okay, and I have a question. So this is the first plant that I've potted. So can you guys tell me what this flower is? Can you guess just by looking at it?
Oh, I can't guess.
I've seen it a million times, but I can't say I know the name specifically.
Here, let's look. Oh,
Check the labels.
Patience.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it's very pretty.
Yeah.
And I guess going back into it, how is it looking?
It looks like a good level. That's what I always think about, especially when we're planting trees. It's super important to not bury your tree too low. And also any plant, because it can't crawl itself out of the soil, but it will settle in a little bit. So it looks like a good level to me. That's something I would point out. And then what we would do next is we would fill in the soil around it, the pot, and we want to make sure that we tamp it down with our fingers just so there aren't any air pockets.
Okay. And then what is the importance of leveling?
Leveling. So for trees, it's super important, like I said, because of the bark is a different material than the roots are, and they can get rotten if they're deep underground and they're moist all the time. Yeah. And then for plants, what do you think?
For plants, I would say you really have to take in consideration the irrigation, so the watering of the plants, exactly how you mentioned, it can lead to rot. But on top of that, if let's say we have too high of a pile of dirt, the water can retain in that dirt and eventually evaporate, so we are losing that water. So I do think it's important for that, as well as how she mentioned to level it down and tap it down.
Yes.
You do want to make sure, because sometimes when you water, it starts to settle, and then you might not have proper coverage for those roots, and they can end up drying out as well.
Okay, wow. And I'm Natalie. In the first half, I remember you mentioned your father. Would you say that when it comes to gardening, he inspires you?
Definitely. I would say that almost in a way that it inspires me to learn more, because there's a lot of times where I mention my work to him and he's like, well, did you do this? Or the way that I do it would be this. But there's just so many different ways to do gardening that it makes me want to learn more. It definitely makes me want to find a way to just make it translatable to all these different age ranges, these cultures, these communities. So it definitely inspires me.
Okay, that's beautiful. And there you have it, our freshly potted plant. Remember, while April is National Gardening Month, the benefits of gardening can and should be enjoyed year-round. Thank you again to our wonderful guests, Rose Liston and Natalie Gudiño, for sharing your knowledge and passion with us today. Organizations like Tree People and Pacoima Beautiful offer great ways to get involved, to learn the basics, and connect with others who care about the planet. I'm your host, Kayla Chavez, and we'll see you again next time on Point.